Hey, so this video is about dreams. I'm having a lot of dreams because it's in the air right now with the collective. But I made this video when I was sleepy and there's a lot of yawning in it. And then I go on some like weird rants and tangents. So we're gonna do it again. Okay, so in the collective right now, a lot of like weird dreams are going on, right? And I've noticed this when I talk to like other spiritual people, like, yeah, girl, like this full moon. And I wanted to talk about like what that means, right? We're all connected, yet we all have our own experiences. So I'm gonna share just a personal like, what? Girl, what? Okay. So even though I've had nightmares, I've overcome them. And I feel mixed signals about it. Because say, okay, I had a reoccurring nightmare about the Jeepers Creepers thing coming for me, right? And over the years, like every once in a while, it'll just, come up and either it kills me or I wake up right before it kills me, like that kind of thing. And so I actually killed it this time. Like, legit killed it. So I was like, I don't know what I'm doing right in my life, y'all, but I'm doing something right because I finally killed the killer. You know what I mean? And then I had another one, but okay, so this is like a common dream that people have where you're in a labyrinth or you're in a maze or you're in a, containment facility, especially with this quarantine shit going on, right? Like, that would bring an increase of those types of dreams. And again, I made it out. Like, before, I wake up right before the really bad thing happens, or I wake up, and I don't get out, whatever. But this time, did the mission, got out, even got some other people out. And I was just like, what? You know what I mean? Like, I'm overcoming things in my dreams. But then I realized, no, this is not the first time. That's been happening for you over the last year, except I would have one dream where it's like, ooh, it did not go well. And then another dream a couple of days later where I resolved the thing. And so I was thinking about also the types of dreams that I have has also been very different. Or maybe I'm just noticing it, whatever, in the last year. But there are dreams that I have out of my eyeballs, just like a regular ass human. We're all humans and we look out our eyeballs and that's how we see the world, right? But I also have dreams where I'm watching the dream. Like I'm in a room watching the dream. And every once in a while, like those are pretty rare. But then I also have every once in a while dreams where I'm looking out of someone else's eyeballs, because I don't know if I have to like look in a mirror or something, but it's like, this isn't me. I'm someone else, but living their dream. So I want to talk about this dreamwalking shit, right? I had a dream where I met some people I've never met before in my life. I go to like this like cookout get together, and then I find out they're my cousins. And then all of a sudden, someone from my spiritual group just like, hey, oh, you friends with these people? Me too. Hey. And then like leaves. And so I hit her up and was like, girl, you like popped in my dream the other day and I've never dreamt about you before. And she was like, oh, I've been dreamwalking. A couple people called me up to say I was in their dreams. And I was like, you dreamwalking? Okay, tell me more, right? And I went ahead and looked a little more into it or whatever, but I was just like, okay, what's this dreamwalking shit? Because I used to think people could send me dreams, and that's why maybe I'm watching the dream, or maybe I'm connected to other people spiritually, and so that's why I'll be living someone else's dream. But I always thought like people go like walk into my dreams more, or something like that I don't walk into theirs. And so then I was like, wait, but wouldn't it be you walking into people's dreams if technically you're seeing things through other people's eyes, or you're watching another dream, you know, that kind of thing. So it was really funny. I had a friend of mine who one time said they had a dream with me, and we were sitting in a movie theater, like watching life go by, or like watching people's lives or something like that. And it was so funny because the reason I thought about this is because a while ago, Spirit had explained to me, like, that your oversoul is like in this console or this movie theater or like this cubicle type thing. And when people talk to the ether, you kind of like you kind of be like, hey, you know, blank, what's up? I want you to have your, you know, dimension 37 self come meet my dimension 37 self, you know, and we're gonna like hang out. And so that's why you might get messages or weird occurrences of like, oh, I ran into this person, they're a soulmate of mine, you know. And that's why it's like, because for them, they're just easily able to like blink into each other's consults, or you know, or materialize into them, or, you know, even just like call over like, hey, I want us to meet in, you know, on planet Zartha, like blah blah blah, make sure, and you know, planet Zartha years 5 years from now we're gonna do that, you know, that kind of thing. And so because I've heard a lot about, you know, you sit in your soul, like your soul is surrounding you all the time, and the idea of your higher self is that person in the console, because technically a little bit of their soul is in each dimension, and that's what surrounds that avatar, that character, or you in that dimension, that reality, whatever. And so when you meditate, you clear out all the cobwebs. So if your higher self wants to like pop in or tell you some shit or whatever, it can, and you know, your ego won't be getting in the way. So I was like, okay, cool. So that's what that's about, right? Like, okay. And when I made this other video the other day, I said that in the video, and then a friend of mine was like, oh, have you seen Midnight Gospel? And I was like, no. And why the fucking first episode is literally like dude in the like little thing and going into like different dimensions, and I was like, so clearly I'm not the only person who thinks this. Thank goodness. You know what I mean? Because I had never heard of anyone explain it like that. Like, I got that message one day, like, woke up, started automatic writing, you know? So I'm like, okay, that is a signal that multiple people got. It's just, thank goodness this one person, like, put it in a fucking TV show, so we know we out here, right? So that's what I mean by, like, collective consciousness. Sometimes we all be getting these messages, but there's certain people who are able to like put it out there and be like, yes. And so then we're supposed to do that. So then other people will be like, okay, I knew I was not the only one who got this message. And it's like, yes, friend. Yes, we all got the message. Or most of us got the message. You know, right? So I was like, okay, this dreamwalking shit, what's up? So I started thinking about certain dreams I was having. And like this one with like tarot cards and this like crystal key thing and rolling it and all this other stuff. And so I was like, you know, let me go through my dream journal and shit, because like, okay, my dream journal, I've been working on this for the last year or so, but where either I at first I was trying to write it down and I couldn't write fast enough, y'all. The dream would just start leaving me as I wrote it. So I would go to like recording it, right? And I had done that before. There have been a few times a couple years ago where maybe if I had something like real crazy, I might like wake up and be like, oh my God, I had this crazy dream, and like say it, or I would type it into like my electronic notes. And I noticed like, wow, some of these dreams like happen, like just not in a way exactly how it happened in a dream, but like either you're picking up like something that's about to happen, or like the energy flow of it, even though you haven't talked to anyone or whatever. So like I had a friend of mine where I had a dream where, you know, she proposed to her boyfriend and she was graduating college, but she just works at a university as a librarian, you know, and she didn't propose to her boyfriend. She asked him to move in with her because she bought a house. But when I had the dream, versus the few months later when she was telling me, oh, I'm buying a house. And then a couple months later, I go to her New Year's Eve party, you know, this last New Year's Eve, and they live together and shit. So it's like, but I had that dream about you way before, you know? So it was really funny, like, okay, that happens. But then I had a dream one time. Okay, so let me go back to the whole sitting in the theater thing. The first time I ever had one of those dreams was almost like a year, almost exactly a year from now. Like, not exactly, but, you know, like around this time last year. And I basically... and then the reason why it was really weird is because I was at like a truth or dare, like, or spin the bottle type situation with some friends, and another Scorpio fucking called me out, man, peeped me out. I'm like, damn, how you know? But I don't really have sex dreams about people. I really don't. Like, sometimes I've seen other people have sex in a dream, but like I don't really have like sex dreams where I'm having sex with people. Anyways, so this dude is like, oh, have you had a sex dream recently? And I was like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, kind of like, how the fuck you know? So, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, like, what? You know, whatever. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I had it about blank over there, you know? And I just say basically like, oh, you, like, I was sad about something, you were really nice to me, and you were comforting me, and then we ended up like having sex. But what I didn't say is I was watching the dream. I wasn't actually in the dream. How the dream actually went was I was fighting with this person's roommate. I was like, we was in this like whole like yelling match or whatever, like, oh, I hate you, you're so mean, and so I like go to my car to cry about it, like, just like, why is she so mean? Why is she so mean to me? Like, and so she comes up to me and she's just like, are you okay? I saw what happened. Like, she's like that sometimes. She does that to me too. And, you know, like, are you okay? And I'm just like, you know, crying, right? And so during that consoling, like, then she kisses me and then we get in my backseat and we have sex, right? Okay. After, when we're like cuddling or whatever, then there's a moment where like I'm like stroking her hair or something, and then like lovingly, like, and then all of a sudden I go like, and just stare off into space, and then I'm looking at myself, and then that's when I realize I'm watching the dream. I'm not in the dream. I'm not looking out of my eyeballs. Does that make sense? So I'm like, what? So then all of a sudden it pauses, like I'm watching a movie, like pause, and then just like a VHS back in the day where they had the lines or whatever, the whole thing rewinds back. And so so then the fight happens again, but then I'm like, I don't want to fight with you, blah blah, and we like basically have this like really good conversation, and we squash the whole thing, and it's fine, and it's like, oh yes, you know. So then I go to my car like triumphant more, like, oh yes, I'm so happy, like we made up, like that was such a stupid fight, blah blah blah, whatever. And so then I kiss her, and then we get into the backseat and have sex. So in the end, it's like it still ends the same. It's just the beginning changed. And it was really funny because I didn't really think about it until, you know, I went back and listened to the dream journal. And it was funny because when it comes to that particular person, I started dreaming about them a lot after that. And sometimes I would tell them about it, you know, be like, oh, you were in my dream, we was doing this crazy shit, you know. Some of it was like intergalactical shit, like we're over here with like fucking phasers and shit, like, you know, and like killing these like poltergeist things and all this crazy stuff. And there was even the one I was talking about before with my friend at the university where she proposes. And that one, my mom is in that dream with me, and we have like a nod moment, and we go out into the hallway, and we go and we're like you know, killing all the things and stuff. And like the poltergeist demon things. And we're in this other planet. So I'm like, okay, so whenever I have these intergalactic dreams, it's either like her or my mom, and they're like one of my partners, and we're like soldiers in this war, right? On this other planet. And so I also did like shrooms and found out that I had like past lives with her and stuff. So that's why I was like, oh, it makes sense why like I'm so comfortable with you and I don't even know you very well, and like I had this weird dream about you, you know, and I keep having all these dreams about you because it was like, oh, we've known each other a bunch of times. And that really made me think about like being connected to like certain souls and like having like soul families and having like karmic partners and twin flames versus soulmates and all that shit, and maybe soul flames and that stuff. It's like they're just some people you keep bumping into on the highway of time. And so it's a reason why when we come here we forget, right? So sometimes when you remember that shit, it clouds your judgment of the person in the reality that you're in, because that was a past life, or those are past lives, or whatever. But when you're going for certain like spiritual clarity and things like that, spirit will show you certain things. And I realized that's why spirit was showing it to me, so it would make me understand like why I felt so comfortable with this person off the bat, why, you know, that kind of thing, right? And why I had certain like mixed emotions about them and things of that nature, right? And so recently I've been going back and noticing other dreams that I've had about people, like my roommates at the time, other family members. What are certain like reoccurring dreams that I had? And, you know, like years ago, I had this one where I had a friend of mine and they were in one room and I'm talking to them, and it's like a laboratory kitchen type thing. And it was reoccurring because that person, the part in the dream was just the beginning, their part always changed. And they also were an Aquarius. Also, did I mention that all these people are Aquariuses? Let me say that. So my mom, the other girl, and this other friend, right? She was Aquarius, and she was my best friend at the time. And her part of the dream always changed. Or them. Maybe they're going back. You know, I never know people's pronouns these days. I haven't talked to them in a while, right? So when I went upstairs, her partner was there, and their partner was there in like this little bunny costume. And then my roommate at the time, who was also like a really good friend, like we was in like a little friend clique group and stuff, we had like a little group chat and shit together, was like in a tutu, but that's it, like completely naked, but in a tutu, just like, oh, look at me, oh, like flittering around and stuff. And it was like really cute. And then I went into this other room, and there was this person I don't know very well, I've only met a few times, and they're like in this like orgy type thing, right, where they're like laying in the middle of a bed with like their arms stretched out, and then there's just like people just laying on them, just like kissing all over them, just like, oh my god, I can't get enough of you, can't get enough of you, can't get enough of you. These people will not let this person get out of bed. They're just laying on them and just like, oh, you're so beautiful. And I remember being like, well, that person is fine, like before and after their transition. They've always been fine. And a couple years later though, when I saw that person again, I had found out they had had this bad back surgery situation and they were bedridden. And my current roommate at the time would go over their house all the time to like help them with stuff and things like that. And then I found out that they were living with them recently, and I was like, this is really weird. Like, it was just one of those funny things. Like, I had that dream about them years ago though, and it was before, and I think maybe they had the cane because they were not okay, like they were okay but not whatever with the thing, but it was before they were like really bedridden. And it was like, so it wasn't really an orgy, right? It was more like this person, when I saw them again, they were though, it was like a mutual friend of ours, the one I was cussing out in the dream had brought a bunch of food and stuff for them, and all these people were around and just like loving on them and like being like, yeah, blah blah blah, and having a great time and whatever. So it was funny, like I associated the loving on them, right, as sexual in the dream, but in reality it was just like generosity and hanging out and laughs and fun and that kind of thing, right? So I was just like, okay, right? And now when I think about it, it's like, I'm not saying they're like prolific. What I'm saying is it's like I catch the energy of certain things a little early. But then the ones that do feel prolific, like around them as well, I had a dream, put in my notes, and then 1 year and 1 hour exactly, something very similar to that dream happened, where like these people or whatever, and they have sex in front of me or something like that, and then I literally woke up to people had those exact people having sex in front of me. Like, well, maybe not exact. It was like this one person, and then the other person was someone I've never seen before. But then, so at least one of the two people were someone, you know, I knew, right? So it was just like, the fuck? Because I remember when it happened, I woke up and was like, what the fuck? And so I go to the bathroom, and then I check my phone and look and see, like, you had that dream and you wrote this down at like 2:33 in the morning, and right now it's 3:33 in the morning or something like that. Like something like that. And it was just like exactly 1 year and 1 hour later, it happened. So a part of me tried to like be like, oh, maybe you just knew that that's the kind of people those people are, and so your brain just assumed like, yeah, that's gonna happen eventually, right? Like, or something. And then trying to like explain it away. And so I realized I always try to explain away a lot of these things, right? Instead of really looking at them as, this is a message. And so I've had other messages, and I've looked back to the dream journal and noticed I had this dream where I saw these giant tarot cards. And let's just say what was on the tarot cards makes sense now. So I've also had dreams about certain symbols and things, and then got obsessed with drawing them. And then I noticed that on my Facebook, you know, Facebook will say like 10 years ago, will show me like certain things I was into in high school, or certain like drawings I used to draw on myself and things like that, and or certain messages I had with people. And it's like, is this what people mean in tarot, where it's like every year is the same day? Like May 1st is May 1st no matter what. We're the only one who put years on it. So like that energy is the same. So however you felt 5 years ago or 4 years ago or 3 years ago, you still have that energy, and you can be the one to change it any given day, right? Of like how you spent your June 1st for the last 20 years or something, right? Because it's the energy that you have on those days. And so sometimes when we have anniversaries or traumatic events that happen on certain days, that's why it's easy to relive them, because it is stuck in that energy of that day. Because years don't mean shit, only the day does. And it was like, what? This is... Friends. So let me go into the dream that I had recently about being in that maze. Let me come back to that. I was separated from a group, like in this containment center type thing, and a wall just goes down separating me from the group because I was lagging behind. And so I was like, oh no, let me get back in. Like, oh no. And they were like, sweetie, you're not trapped in, we are trapped in. And I was like, wait, what? And then I had to realize, like, oh shit, they're trapped into a room. But I kept thinking that when the glass went down, it meant I was being trapped into a room. No, I was literally on the other side, like on the door, on the freedom side, right? And so this teacher comes to me and gives me a key, and is like, okay, so you need to blend in, pretend like, because if they find out you're not trapped in there with the rest of your class, then it's not gonna be good for you, right? So I'm like putting on this hoodie, trying to pretend like I'm in another class or whatever, because it's from like when the high school I was in like 9th and 10th grade, and it felt like a field trip. But then later it's like, no, it's the actual school. And I used to always feel like that school felt like jail, because there was like bars on the windows and shit, like the security guards everywhere, and you can never get out, like. And there was a part where they were like, they can't, I went on an elevator and they're like, they can't vote because of what they did, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to teach them a lesson because they messed with the temperature of this room or something and some other shit. And I'm just and at that point I had gotten a guard's costume and was pretending to be one of the guards and just sitting in the elevator, like putting my hat down, like, please don't let them know I'm not one of them. Please let them not know I'm not one of them. Please let me, like that thing. And then the person that I had that sex dream about, when I get off the elevator, is there in a uniform. And they look me dead in the eye, smirk, and keep walking. Kind of like, I know what you're doing. And I'm like freaking the fuck out internally, but not saying it. And I remember being like, let me get this key and let me get these people the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, instead of freaking out. So I guess it was kind of calming. But like, I feel like that person's always smirking at me in my dreams. So that's why I was like not surprised by that. I'm like, that girl always smirks. Like whenever, I don't know if she's dream walking, but if she does, her ass dream walks into my dreams, smirks at me a lot, and it's a lot of smirking, and I don't get it. So, but I noticed that like when we got out though, we get out to the sunlight, and we're like, yay, we're out, and then they tell me what they did to get locked in there. And so I'm like, dang, I wasn't even part of this like crazy plan that y'all had with the temperature and some other shit and some espionage shit, but look at me have to be the ones to get y'all out. Okay, wow. So then I like turn into Batman or something. I don't, some weird, y'all, it's different. But that's the point, is like normally I would have woke up right before I opened the doors, or right when I opened the doors, or something like that. But this time I woke up like, was able to be in the celebration, able to enjoy the fruits of my labor of saving all the people and actually getting out the maze for the first time, and then I flew away, like, or some shit. But it was one of those things that's like, this goes back to this overcoming energy, right? Like, I've overcome something. And so that's why I started realizing the thread was, right? Like, you're starting to look at your spiritual journey very differently. You're starting to be able to explain things in a different way. And this is just a very important time for everyone. So I suggest to everyone, wake up. If you gotta say your dreams into the water, a friend of mine told me about that. If you want to write it down, if you have a voice recorder, you would record it. Because sometimes I literally have had like 2 or 3 dreams in a night, right? And so I wake up and just be like, this happened, this happened, this happened. Right? And then, whatever. So that's why I listen to my dream journal, because sometimes I'll listen and be like, when the fuck did I have that dream? And then I'll look and be like, oh, I saw the time on it. And it's like, oh, it was one of those middle dreams, right? Where I had like 2 or 3 dreams back to back. So it was like the first or second one. So that's why I started noticing like, oh, if someone is in one of those dreams, I don't remember that shit. And in November, it was when I did my first like listening to it and realized like my family members being in certain dreams, my old roommates at the time being in certain dreams, that girl who likes to smirk at me all the time. I realized I had started dreaming about her before the sex dream and didn't even know, and was like, whoa, that's weird. Like, just because it wasn't sexual or anything. It was just like she was always a confidant and making like cameos in my dream. And I feel like I was always telling her, how did she get here? And so it's kind of funny, like, oh, a year later, you're not asking her how she is getting into your dreams. You're just like, this is what you do. So clearly this is what you do. I'm fine with it at this point. But back then, when it first fucking happened, that was the thing I didn't notice when I was listening to the recording. I would be like, blank was in my dream again, or blank was in the dream. How did she get here? And it would be, it was like, cue the song, like, how did you get here? Like, I swear, like, it was. But yeah, but in those dreams, it was always like I was driving around. I would be hanging out with my roommates or hanging out with my family, and then I would be going to like different like city halls and parks and universities and telling people about this thing I'm passionate about. And then I would get home and like take like all my baggage off, or why did I say it like that? But anyways, all my bags off, take your jacket off. You know how you're like, oh, I'm tired, like I did a lot today, right? So back in the day, it would have been like when you take your bra off when you get home kind of thing. And so it was like, after all that, then I would turn around and be like, how'd you get in here? Like, my door was locked, kind of thing. And that's when the smirking started. It would be like, I have my ways. I'm just like, what do you mean you have your ways? So that's why I think I used to be slightly paranoid that like, no, I'm not walking through dreams. People are walking in mine. Like, but now I'm starting to realize, like, you never know. You could be walking all up in people's dreams and not know. Because since that one friend of yours said, no, we was sitting in a movie theater watching shit, and that's the same person who was in the tutu from years before, when y'all still live together, come on now. This is telling you something. These people are connected, right? Like, I've had some weird, like, Alice in Wonderland one. Okay, going back to people I've never met before in my life. Let's go back to that. There was this beautiful Asian man, like, who I was just like, I think I was going to marry him or something, and had to meet his mom, and she had, like, this crazy room with all these, like, computers, but then this, like, glass plexi wall thing that was where you could see out, but people couldn't see in, and down there were, like, all these black trans people who were like at like a like one of those swap meets where like you give away clothes and stuff and they get clothes. And then and that was like their house or something. But then I went to another room, his sister's room, and he's like, oh, you can have this room. And when he first opened the door, it was an all white room with an all white bed and all white everything, and like bland, super minimalist. And I was like, I don't like it, because I was there to like get my own room. Oh no, that's what it was. It was before we were engaged. It was like I was coming there to move. Like, I was trying to move, and I went there to like rent a room. And so then he closes it, and then I was like, oh, blah blah blah, something, and then he opens the door again, and the room fucking changes, and it turns into like this meditation Zen garden time, where it has like the sand and like those skinny plants that come out, and there was like a water feature coming through the room and stuff, and there's like a window. And so I walk around, and I'm like, oh, now this is the room for me. And then I go through the window. When I come out, I'm on this street that's like around the corner from where I lived at the time, and so then I run into these people, and we're walking, we go into this apartment, and then we get into the apartment, then all the like black trans people that were in the other house, like, were there, and they were having a party, and it was like, hey girl, you late? And I was like, well, I'm late. And so we were all doing this cool party stuff. So that's what I mean by like, I be having these weird like things. But then the funny thing about it was, when I had that dream, like a couple months later, I was working at this job, and I had a party not a party, but like an event at my job, and I was giving away a lot of stuff. And there were a lot of drag performers there, and I was giving away a lot of stuff to them. So it was just like, I was just like, what is this? You know what I mean? So I don't know. And then I've had a similar dream like that months later, or years later maybe, and I was on a date with this guy, and I see one of these roommates. Like, I've had a couple, so but like, I see them and they're like, I don't want to move. And I remember in real life they told me I never want to move in my life. And so in the dream we have like this really long conversation in this like bookcase thing. And I remember this was a reoccurring dream I used to have about them all the time, where I'd have these long conversations with them under this like bookshelf thing. And we would talk about them and their Native American heritage and like all this other stuff. And then we would, but this one was different because they were like, I don't want to move. I don't want to move. And I was like, oh, I'll help you house hunt. And so then I take them to this house, and they're like, I really like this house, but I can't live here because there's no stairs to the basement. And I'm like, there's no stairs to the basement. What are you talking about? And so I'm like, fuck that shit. We're jumping down there. So I jump down there and like land on my feet like a cat. And then the other guy, the guy I'm on the date with, like comes down too and helps my roommate down. Because they're like, I don't want to go, this is scary. And I'm like, no, you gotta do it. You gotta face your fears. You gotta do it, boo. And you can do it. I'm right here with you. You know what I mean? And so we help them down by like, I find a plank of wood and I let them slide down. And then we're like going through and we're like talking about all this stuff. And then all of a sudden what materializes is like this door, and it becomes a walkout basement. So then they're able to walk out and they're like, thank you. Like, I just needed that. Like, blah, blah, whatever. And so what I find out a couple months later, they had to move. Anyways, it was really weird. So yeah, stuff like that. Just, it was just like, what is going on? But that was always so maybe actually me talking, I'm so happy I redid this video, because some of these dreams I talked about in the last one, but some of them I didn't. And I'm starting to realize that the Aquariuses in my dreams always are able to change something. Because when it goes back to that one where the one who was in the laboratory room, that one changed. It was real dark and sad and depressing. And then one day it was like lively and like a laboratory. And the conversations that we always had always changed. But when I went upstairs to the white room, exact same story. When I went into the room with the person where it seemed like the orgy was happening, never changed. I always come in the room and they say, hey, close the door, either in front of you or behind you. And I was like, I don't know. And then I would like close the door and go out back into the hallway, and then I would wake up almost like I was scared, like, oh, like I want to get in the bed with you, but I'm scared to get in this bed with you. Like, which is funny because I should be down, like, orgy, let's go, you know what I mean? So I was like, that's not like me. Anyways, but yeah, so I was just like, what is this? And I'm also remembering that yeah, it's something about that. But then also I noticed, like, going back to dreams I've never seen someone before. There was one I had recently where it was not me, because I was Indian, like from India, and I was hanging out with this guy, Raj, and I stopped him from killing himself, and then he wants to marry me, but then I almost like walk off with his little 4-year-old brother in an elevator and don't know how it happened. And then that happened. And then when I come back upstairs, like, little kid, like, where are we going? We about to leave the building, we got to go back in. And so then the kid's like, fine, okay, and I bring him back in, and then he's trying to marry me or something. And then I go in the bathroom and I see it's not my face and this is not me, and I'm like, what the fuck, and what was this? And so I'm this other lady. And so then I had another dream recently too, where like I was in someone else's body, and then that turned into like a sex dream, and I was like, wow, this is like the first sex dream I've had since that other person I used to have sex dreams about. So it was just like, but I wasn't in my body. So when I say sex dreams, it was probably like 3. Let's not be dramatic. It was like, the rest of them were like intergalactic, boom, 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 shoot, 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 you know. We out here getting the things, you know. or weird relationship-y stuff, like me driving around and then them whatever, or me like freaking out about something and them being like, oh, you doing too much, and then, or me being like, or you doing too much. I feel like we had a lot of like, one of us was doing too much for something, and it would be for different reasons. But yeah, so that was crazy as hell. Oh my gosh, I'm still talking. Okay. So let me finish this up. So bring all that rambling. And none of it should be coherent. Oh, I think that's what it was. The last video, I just felt like it was it was like telling a story that was a little too obvious. But now I'm looking back, maybe this is still kind of obvious. I feel like even though I didn't use names, like it's still like people, if they watched it, they could figure out who they were in the dream. Too late now. Okay, whatever. So, because we're posting this one. The other one I'm keeping on private so I can watch it by myself. But yeah, this one we're posting. So just think about your dreams, how they relate to people. Are you looking at your own eyeballs? Are you? Are you watching the dream? Is Midnight Gospel onto some shit? I've only watched 2 episodes, or was it 3? But like, or maybe 2.5. But I'm so happy someone else is with me on this console thing. That's what made me have to redo the video, because I was like, oh, see, I was going on this other tangent, and maybe that's not even what it was about. It was more about like you can pop into other things and you can know certain things, and your higher self is trying to tell you stuff. Oh, and that's also, I recorded that video and then went to sleep. And when I went to sleep, I had another dream about a key. So now I've had 3 key dreams in the last week, right? The one where I was in the maze and I get out and I have to use a key to get out. Then the one with the tarot cards, and it was like a crystal thing, and it turns into a fucking key. And then I use it with the tarot cards to unlock some shit. And then this third one, it was like this running away from some like weird house thing. And then my sibling pops up and my dad pops up and like, that's what. And then this like cop person is trying to follow me. And then I realized, even though my family members are in it, again, it wasn't me. And that was really weird. So that's why I was like, because it wasn't even like where I live. Like, again, it was just like, and then also there was like this weird stuff happening where like, yeah, someone's following me, or someone's following me, like that kind of thing. And they're trying to get this key from me, and I just need to like get it away from them. Right, so I'm like, whoa, what is this about? There's something about a key, y'all. Something about a key. Anyone else dreaming about keys? I don't know. But there's different types of keys, and the keys are important. And I just need to say that. Is anyone else having important dreams about keys? Is also, do you have prolific dreams, or dreams where you realize like, yeah, that shit did happen a year later? Or you're like, no, I haven't had none of this shit happen to me. I need to start recording my shit. Start, please, right now. Because like I said, I did it on and off a little bit here and there a couple years ago, but this last year I've been much more diligent about it, and that's why I'm able to piece certain things together, especially the ones where I just don't remember them. Those were really good indicators of like why I was acting certain ways. Like, oh, this is why you're so comfortable with this person. You're dreaming about them all the time. You're having like whole ass conversations, relationships in your dreams. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this stuff is going on. So, y'all, dreams. Look into that shit, y'all. They are trying to tell us something. And me overcoming shit in my dreams makes me realize, like, yes, I'm coming over a hurdle, but I know I'm not the only one. We out here. What's up? So, I love you. I love me. I love us. I love we. I'll see you soon with some more shit. But yeah, let's talk about these dreams, y'all. These dreams, y'all. These dreams, y'all. These dreams. Okay. Thank you.